Okay. Isn't that fantastic? People all over the place in this nation standing up for what's right. I think that what 2020 birthed was courage. 2020 birthed courage. And I think there's been a deficit. We're a very easygoing people. Oh, let's just wait. I mean, nobody wants to be a problem. We all want to wear our masks so that we're not considered inconsiderate. It doesn't matter. Some of you, I met a guy yesterday, I was talking to him. He has asthma just like I do. And he says, I know how you feel, like, and he doesn't like his mask. But he's just complying. It's just easier, isn't it? It's just easier. We'll just go along with it. Well, some people aren't just going along with it. And so I admire them. We have a very serious issue to bring up. I don't know if you know what UNDRIP means. I barely do. And I have talked to my next guest before on this. But apparently it is reaching a very, very serious situation. Do you believe that your land is your land in Canada? When you have purchased a property, do you believe that that is your land? Because there are some things going on. There are some perspectives of the United Nations, some initiatives that are making their way through civil government on up, and it's alarming, and you need to know about it. I don't understand it. I'm just one blonde girl, but I can tell you that that my next guest does understand it. So Ron Vaillant, I'd like to welcome him to the show. And
Oh,
Ron, thank
hi.
you. Hello, how are you?
Well, good. Pretty busy.
Yeah, I know you are. And you are covering something called UNDRIP. And you have been a leading voice in this for quite a while. And I have to say, it's a bit confusing to all of us. But you
Mhm.
really do feel that we've got a crisis, so much so that you've
Oh,
written
yeah.
letters to your MP, and I believe that
Hmm.
is Blaine Calkins. And
Right.
you have written letters beginning to warn people, hey, are you paying attention to what's going on over here? We've got a problem. So I'm going to let you
Yeah.
talk, Ron, because sometimes I interrupt. And last time that we talked, apparently I interrupted you too much, probably because I didn't know. I really didn't know what you were saying, and I wanted to understand. But I'm going to give you the floor, Ron, and I want to hear everything. If you could start from the basics,
Okay.
so that people just tuning in and go,
Yeah.
I've never heard of UNDRIP. I talked to someone
All right.
today who'd never heard about it. Let me know what's going on.
Okay. All right. Uh, when I ran for the PPC in 2019 in Prince George area, Prince George Peace River, Northern Rockies, one of the first things I heard about was caribou recovery in UNDRIP. My campaign manager is way ahead of the curve. She knew all about UNDRIP. And UNDRIP is a UN declaration, basically. Okay, it's been going on for 20 years. They've been creating this monster, and it's called the United Nations Declarations on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Now, to make things clear, I'm all in favor of having rights for everyone, to have free rights or equal rights and freedom in Canada. So I'm not opposed to that at all. The thing that once you bring up this kind of a topic, people just label you as a racist because you're even challenging it. You know, it's this cancel culture as political correctness. Okay, I'm not racist in any way at all. I've picked up many Native people on the highways, given them rides, and given them my stuff too. So okay, so anyhow, the thing with UNDRIP is it's so open ended. Okay, actually, I should have grabbed the book. I don't. I could have showed it on the screen here. Oh well. Uh, Now, do you have the video I sent? Were you guys able to download that video?
We weren't able to download it. Are we able to just show it right off the screen if you bring it up?
Yeah, we don't need it right now. I'm just trying to get a heads up on that because it's on YouTube. I just posted. I've been working all morning on it.
Okay,
Okay, so
okay. Is it on your
okay,
YouTube?
so it's on my YouTube. So just go to Ron Vaillant on YouTube, but it's right there. Okay, and you can download it.
Okay,
And then I sent also. I emailed you the time signatures, or it's on your phone. I texted you actually.
okay. I'll get
Okay,
that.
so all right, so anyhow, this UNDRIP has been going on for a long time. And a fellow named Romeo Saginaw. He's an Aboriginal lawyer. He's also, I believe, a two-time MP. He's been kind of pushing this agenda for a long time to get it, applied into Canadian law. And when we were doing the election at that time in 2019, it was called Bill 262. It was his private member's bill that he had introduced. It had passed through the House of Commons, okay? So, and then it was brave senators who were blocking it because they could see how open-ended this whole document is. Okay, so when the election was actually called, then the bill was defeated because, you know, basically it died. So in the throne speech, and I recommend people go and watch the video on my YouTube channel called Throne Speech. You can start at 2 minutes for a surprise and then go to 3:15. And I catch basically what everyone missed, you know, like, I mean, I couldn't believe no one caught this stuff. So one of the things was just a one-liner, and it was that the Liberal government's going to introduce a bill to adopt UNDRIP, okay? And that's what I made my emergency broadcast video at the end of 2020. And the good thing is it got some good traction. You know, the other videos I've done previously, which I recommend people watch if you want to get further into it, didn't get as much traction. So, and what happened from there, my understanding was, okay, I saw the bill come in and I understood that they wanted to be able to have it passed through the House of Commons by June, July, okay? And a group has reached out to me because they saw that emergency broadcast video, and we've been working together to try and defeat this thing. Okay, so we had contacted recently a Liberal MP, and then 3 days later, we found out that the whole process of going through the standing committees and everything else has been shortened. And now it's April 22nd that they want to have us all wrapped up. And myself and 3 other people, I'm not going to say their names in case they don't want me to, we were kind of looked at as possibly being witnesses. So if you go in these committees, you end up becoming a witness and you state why you think is for or against or whatever, raise your concerns. And now what they've done is, believe it was 10 committee meetings, and they brought it down to 6 or 7. So we're basically out of the loop now. We can't voice our concerns, right?
Wow.
All
Ron,
right.
I do want to let you know that we do have the video whenever you would like to roll those clips.
Okay. All right.
He's not quite ready. But we do
we're not
have
ready
it,
yet.
so okay.
I got to explain UNDRIP a little bit first,
Good.
okay? Okay, so UNDRIP, I recommend people go and just search it on the internet, UNDRIP document, and just download it. It's not a very long document, you know. You can kind of, if you just look at a couple articles, there's 46 articles in there. Look at Article 5 and look at Article 26. There's other ones, but 26 is a big one. That's the one that really caught my eye when I first read it. And what it says is that Aboriginal peoples, no, it's not Aboriginal, Indigenous peoples have the rights to the lands, territories, and resources to which they have traditionally owned, occupied, or otherwise used. Okay, they have the rights to anything that they've used. Now, this is a real problem because what have they used? Have they used it all? Pretty much everything in Canada can be said that they've used it. And this is demonstrated in, it's in my last Red Alert emergency video, just the one previous to the one that I just uploaded. At the very end of it, I include David Menzies when he was in Toronto. And there they had an enclave of people with tents in Dundas Square, right in the town square by City Hall. And John Tory, the mayor of Toronto, he was just going along with this for weeks, right? And sorry, I thought that was you. Okay, so so David Menzies goes up and talks to David Menzies goes and talks to the lady who's kind of running the thing, I guess, and she says, "This is my Indigenous land, and these are my Indigenous people. What are you doing on my land?" It was North American Indian. She didn't look like it. Now here's the kicker. Bill C-15, okay, the one that the Liberals introduced, what they want is they want to have all Canadian law subservient and adhering to UNDRIP, the 46 things, and 26 that I just quoted is one of them, right? Okay, and So they want that in that bill. It's a very short bill. Go look it up too. It's only a couple pages. Actually, if you just go look up that bill, it also has the UNDRIP articles at the end of it. So Bill C-15, you'll probably find the first reading. It's already passed the second reading, and now it's gone into committee meetings, and then the committee does recommendations to the House, and then they vote on it. It passes or fails, and then it goes to the Senate, okay? And yeah,
So I
the
see it. It
craziness
says,
of it.
right, House
Okay,
of Commons of Canada, Bill C-15, an act respecting the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Okay.
yes. Okay, so if you go down to number 5,
Yep.
because there's definitions at first. Is that no? Actually, there's another definition before. Go. I don't want to lose my screen here. I'll just find.
That's okay. Yep, keep going.
No. I'll find it real quick here.
Okay.
Interpretations. Okay, it's under interpretation, and then there's definitions, and then
Okay,
it
yeah, I
says
see
indigenous
that.
peoples. Okay, it says indigenous peoples has the meaning assigned by the definition Aboriginal peoples of Canada in subsection 35(2) of the Constitution Act. Okay, and then when you go and look at the Constitution Act, basically it says that in this act, Aboriginal peoples of Canada include Indian, Inuit, and Métis people of Canada. All right? So here they're using the word Aboriginal, okay? But in UNDRIP, it's Indigenous. So two different words, two different meanings. But anyhow, so Bill C-15 identifies, they say that this has to do with the Charter 35(2) and Aboriginal people, and it excludes a whole bunch of other Native American people, by doing that. But anyhow, the kicker is, UNDRIP itself, the document, I looked all through it, I couldn't find a definition of what Indigenous is. I lost my screen on you. Okay, let's see here. Well, I want to be able to see. I think there it is. Okay. I got about 5 million tabs open.
Right.
Probably you
I
do
like
too,
that
right?
too.
Okay, so so there's nowhere in UNDRIP itself that identifies what Indigenous is. And then I thought, okay, well, the UN must have a definition. So I looked, and I basically found that they don't really have a legal definition. Can you imagine? They have what someone has, said they think it is, but there's no legal definition. And then, okay, now we can go into the video here.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me just think here. Okay, so there's no legal definition. This is what I found out on my own research of Indigenous, and yet Bill C-15, the whole thrust of it is that Canadian law will be in adherence to UNDRIP, which has no definition of what Indigenous is. It's total crazy town. So if you can't even define what Indigenous is, all those articles are meaningless, aren't they? Or what is it?
Yeah, I see your point.
Okay, let's go into this. Well, yeah. So let's go into this video here.
Okay.
So the first section starts at 4 seconds.
4 seconds.
Do you have
Okay.
the time code? It's 4 seconds.
4 seconds.
Okay.
To
Of the
22.
Indigenous and Northern Affairs Committee to order, and start by the acknowledgement that in Ottawa we meet on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin people. Pursuant to Standing Order 108-2 and the motion adopted on February 25th, 2021, the committee is continuing its study.
That's it.
Okay.
Did you catch that? Okay, this is what's going on in Canada, right? You've seen it, I'm sure, as you traveled across and gone to
The
meetings.
unceded land.
Yeah, so, and actually even Bonnie Henry, when she was in Vancouver, they were talking about COVID. They started her meeting that we acknowledge that we are on the unceded territory, and then they give the list of different bands, right? And in Northern BC, they've been doing this for 4 years. That's the first time I ever seen or heard of it was when I ran in the election in 2019. And a lot of people, they don't like it, because it's all being thrust on them. It's in the schools, it's everywhere. And this one fellow, he's a millionaire contractor, and he deals with big stuff. And he complained about it to me. And I says, well, why don't you guys, if you don't like it so much, just agree within your community that if they do that at the meeting, that everyone gets up and you just leave. He says, if that happened, it'd be noted who left, and we'd lose all our contracts. That's the force of it now.
Wow.
So this is being force fed on us all. It's even in churches. I heard that there's churches in Edmonton doing this now, right? And
That
from my perspective, the way I see it is that by Bonnie Henry's meeting or whatever, that they acknowledge that Vancouver itself is on the unceded territory of these peoples, right? It's like going to be a legal claim. It'll be like in Section 26, it says that they have the rights to anything that they've ever used. So these politicians are saying that this is their territory. So in a legal case, wouldn't it be a slam dunk? You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
So, yeah.
I hear what you're saying. I mean, it's kind of very subtle, and yet are we paying attention? And what does this all mean? Everybody believes that, like you say, there should be rights, and there. But what is this leading to? I get it.
Well, see, really, what the way I see it, and many others, is that the UN is using Aboriginal peoples as a pawn in order to be able to forward their agenda of having no land rights, basically. Like the Great Reset, you'll own nothing and be happy. And UN Agenda 2030, when I was looking at it, that's basically where they want to go with this. That they want us to not own anything and just be in compact cities. And so, unfortunately, the Aboriginal people or whatever, they're basically being used as pawns, and they don't see it. And there's quite a few actually Native people who I don't like using the word Aboriginal because that's a UN thing on it. It really means the Native people of Australia, right? But anyhow, so it's the Native people. I think they're much more, well, when we grew up as kids, that's what we called them, right? And it wasn't a slang or a derogatory, but they, went and, UNized it, for their purposes.
And I know First Nations people that use that term, so.
Oh yeah, no, it's not a problem at all, but so okay, let's go ahead and play the other clip in the video.
Okay,
it's
so
like
39. Okay.
To 122.
All right.
Now, I should explain, maybe pause it for a second.
Okay, sure.
Confederacy.
Go ahead.
What I'm playing here is actually, this is last week, and it was on this week is on the 11th. And because they fast-tracked everything, they have a pre-committees now, and this is the pre-committee for this bill. And so these people talking or whatever are witnesses, which, really I should be in there being a witness. But so anyhow, that's what's going on here. And then I just kind of edited out it was 3 hours long, right? So I'm just making an 8-minute video to show some key points. So this lady here is asking Romeo Saganash, he's a fellow who's driving all of this in Canada. And this is his answer as to what her question is.
Okay.
Of Treaty 6 First Nations, Romeo, basically cautioning that Bill C-15 will have an effect of changing the definition of Indigenous persons as defined in international law. Can you speak to this important matter, and has the UN ever adopted a definition of Indigenous peoples?
Well, that's a good question and an important question, I believe. I can say this firmly, that there's to my knowledge, no UN body that has adopted a definition for Indigenous peoples.
Well, by golly. By golly. So there you have it. Who's Indigenous? Now, the Black's Law Dictionary, I didn't pull that up actually. I was too busy doing other stuff, but basically it's someone who is born in the land, basically. Like if you're born here or whatever, you're Indigenous.
Okay.
Now, the problem with UNDRIP, it doesn't look at, like in Canada, we think of, treaty rights, and we got the reserves and all that kind of stuff, and all of our laws, how we deal with everything. But UNDRIP doesn't deal with that. It does talk about that we have to respect the previous treaties and everything else like that, but it goes way beyond that, because the UN wants no borders, right? They don't want nation states or whatever, because that gives too much power to individuals. So you have to be able to break all that down, break down society, and bring it into, like a super, condensed UN power broker situation, right? And so when you look at the document, you have to look at it from the eyes of the UN. You also have to look at it in the legal sense. Like, most people would just read UNDRIP and say, yeah, I can go with that. We want them to have their rights and be self-determined and, have, rights to their lands, and all that kind of stuff. But when you actually factor it into UN understanding of what they're doing, and also in a legal sense, how's that going to play out legally, right? Like, who's going to be Indigenous, right? If you can't even define who Indigenous is, then that's a problem. And so later on that clip, that's okay, we won't go to it, but he basically says that the reason why the UN doesn't want to really define this stuff is because it'll exclude some people.
Is that in the clip? We have that ready.
No, actually, it's not in that clip. Actually, no,
Yeah.
It's on the video that I posted. Okay, now what's the other clip there? Yeah, go ahead and look at the other clip.
Okay.
Yeah, 538 to 706.
Okay.
Now, this clip actually has to do with, he explains what's happening already in Canada with this whole thing. Okay, go ahead.
International covenants.
So one of the concerns, and maybe I'll go to Mr. Saganash with this one as well, to just explain how
that's a conservative MP.
The declaration as being applicable in Canadian law, how that improves our current jurisprudence, I guess, and it improves upon the hard-fought battles that have been, or hard-fought and won battles in terms of the court decisions. And do we not risk undermining some of those court decisions by now introducing an entirely new system of law into Canada?
In fact, let me say this from the outset. The courts have already confirmed that provision that you read to us. The courts are using the UN Declaration, referencing the UN Declaration to interpret domestic law. And that's been going on for many years. Our human rights tribunals, provincial and federal, have been using the UN Declaration, even before it was adopted by the UN General Assembly. So what this Bill C-15 does, it just confirms what the courts have.
Yeah. Oh, don't con us, Romeo. Yeah, it's way more than that. Okay, so what did you get out of that? Blondie? What?
No. This is your platform. I'm not talking over. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So continue though, because you really have a grasp on this.
Okay. I'm just giving you a hard time.
I know. I know you are. It's okay.
So, all right. So he just stated that our court system are already making decisions based on UNDRIP. Okay. And that has to do
it's already in the works, yeah.
Well, they've already been making decisions and it has to do with all of the different UN human rights things that these governments, piece by piece over time, have been putting into place. And there's so many things, there's so many chess pieces they already have on the board, and now this UNDRIP one, to me, is for all the marbles, because. Right. When you go ahead and do this, not only will you be, you have people be able to claim all the land, and what happens to the cities? Like, what happens if you've paid $5 million for your property and all of a sudden someone else is going to be able to claim it, right? It's unbelievable. Do you have the UN Declaration, the UNDRIP right there in front of you? So I don't have to go to another screen?
Is that the one that I just had up?
No, let me I have it here, because there's a couple other points that are really big. There's number 5 preview here, so I'll find it here. I got okay. Now these are called articles. There's 46 articles in UNDRIP.
Okay.
And Article 5. Okay. Now, first of all, understand we don't know who Indigenous people are. Okay. Right.
Right.
We have
it's not conclusion. Defined.
It's not defined. Romeo Saganash, the guy who's been pushing it in Canada, he's a guy who did the Private Members Bill 262. He himself admits that there is no definition from the UN's perspective of, a legal definition of what Indigenous is. All right, so now we have this, and people would read this document and they would just think it's the Native Americans, right? But it's not. All right, so Article 5 says Indigenous peoples have the rights to maintain and strengthen their distinct political, legal, economic, social, and cultural institutions, while retaining their right to participate fully, if they so choose, in the political, economic, social, and cultural life of the state. So all you have to do when you read this stuff is just look at it with common sense, okay, and just understand, like, this is fairly straightforward language.
Why
So
do you
these
think
people who...
Why have they
Go
not
ahead.
defined? Why have they not defined Indigenous in your mind?
Well, because it's going to, and they don't identify an Indigenous person as necessarily in UNDRIP as being from one country and maybe not in another, right?
Right.
We'll look at
so
that.
Indigenous in the world could be
exactly.
subjectively put forward.
And we have this whole thing where they're saying climate change is so bad that we're going to have to, there's going to be 2 billion people displaced or whatever, and they're going to rifle them all into, the Western civilization, and they're doing it right now. In Canada, we've signed on to the Global Compact on Migration, which bypasses our regular immigration laws, so people can just show up here and say, I'm here, and then all of a sudden we're paying for them. That all has to do with UN Agenda 2030 and the redistribution of wealth. The Canadian taxpayer pays for their hotels and all of that stuff,
So you believe the Liberal government is complicit in this? Do you believe Trudeau is understanding all of this? Sometimes we don't know if he is.
Well, I don't want to say something direct because it's lawfare, right? They'll get sued. But
allegedly, what is your opinion? Because here we have a government that is supposed to be protecting the sovereignty of our nation, that we love Canada. We believe it's a sovereign nation, and that it should have protections for the people that live here, all people. And what you're sort of showing is that there seems to be a different agenda. This Romeo Sagnesh, if I'm saying Saganash.
Yeah, he's a...
Is he quite an activist? Would you say?
Well, he's a lawyer, and he was a 2-time MP. Like, he's a big player. Mm-hmm. He's not just.
He really understands all the ins and outs.
Oh, well, you would think so, but by the way I hear him talk, I don't know. Like, I mean, it's it doesn't make sense to me, a lot of it. So what he's going by.
So ultimately, Ron, you want to warn Canadians of what?
Well, what's happening is they're pushing this through in an unprecedented way almost. What they're doing is kind of unusual to fast track it like this. And they want to have, it go through the House of Commons by April 22nd, from what I'm understanding.
Okay.
And then it would go to the Senate. And so what I'm trying to do is, there's so many MPs, probably most of them, don't know anything about UNDRIP, don't know the implications. And even when we had communication with one conservative MP, and we sent, I sent you that letter.
Yes.
Okay. Now that is my statement of what my concerns are with UNDRIP. And that actually, I think people should look at, because it goes in and it talks about all the issues, or not all of them, some of the issues. There's so much more to talk about, but and they can actually, if you put it someplace, maybe underneath your video, or if you can, I don't know where you, on your website. It's also on Mark Friesen's website, Freedom for Canadian Sovereignty.org, is it?
Yes.
And then if you just go on that website under UNDRIP, it's right there. There's videos that I've done and whatnot on the topic, but you can also, below that is this letter, and you can just copy and paste it and find out who your MP is, You can do that by figuring out what your federal electoral district is, and then from there find out who is a MP for that. Or you can
So
probably just even
I have that letter pulled up that you've basically written to your MP, and you're saying, I hope you do realize that we are about to lose our land rights if this goes through via Article 26. You are saying
yeah.
a huge emergency call out, like now.
Oh, this is big time. This is huge, huge, huge. Yeah, absolutely. And it goes way more than land. Like I'm just kind of scrolling here through.
You want him to shout it from the mountaintops, the extreme danger that we are now in, and that we need MPs to vote against this bill.
We need MPs to get educated as to what's going on here. That's why I want to have this letter. People send this letter to their MPs so they can actually see the concerns, and for them to actually start looking at UNDRIP. I was told that most of the Liberal MPs in Ontario haven't even heard of UNDRIP. Okay, so
right.
All right, and so this whole thing here with what I just read with Article 5. Okay,
yeah.
So what we're supposed to do is we're supposed to design our laws to make sure that they can strengthen their distinct political, legal, and economic, social, and cultural institutions. Now, we don't know if Indigenous is just a single person or a group or what it is, right? So, so let's say you can, and this is my theory, that I believe that Indigenous people who are Indigenous from other countries, when they come here, they will be able to participate in Article 26. If they walk across your land, they can claim it. And here, that we're supposed to make sure that they have all of their, distinct political, legal, and economic and cultural institutions. So this is what I wrote in the letter. Let's see here. It's a bit radical, so, but it's is this possible? What if foreign Indigenous political, social beliefs go against Canadian law? In Africa, it's a cultural belief to cut off a woman's clitoris. UNDRIP will have us strengthen that cultural belief under this section. In Papua New Guinea, cannibalism was a cultural custom until recently. Will these Aboriginals be allowed to practice their custom in Canada? While these examples seem outlandish, it demonstrates that UNDRIP is just way too open-ended for interpretation to be a basis of law in Canada, right? So that was a bit heavy, but I mean...
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying, Ron. You're saying that if this were to be interpreted in a wide swath, that potentially somebody could come in at a later date, and we're seeing all kinds of interpretations in the courts. I mean, we don't know which way's up from Sunday, right? These days on what people are saying. So you're sounding the alarm.
So this actually, because the reason I make these connections is because of all of the different things that I've looked at over the years, and I connect the dots, and this is where I believe it's going. And people will say, no, that they're just doing it for the, North American Indians here, right? But even at that, imagine just if that was just as simple as the North American Indians claiming all the land, and people herald that thing because they say, well, we stole their land or whatever, and that's all a debate. But the whole thing is, what about all of the untold, billions and trillions of dollars that have been developed on top of that land, So here's another one. I say it's number 5 on that thing. Canada will not be able to use its military on Canadian soil unless agreed to by Indigenous peoples, because Article 30 says military activities shall not take place in the lands or territories of Indigenous peoples. And most people would think that that's just reserve land, but it doesn't talk about that, right? Not unless justified by relevant public interest or otherwise freely agreed with or requested by the Indigenous peoples. So that's a real big issue. Number 6 in the letter says that I wrote in there that we will be under UN Charter rule, circumventing Canadian law. And Article 46 says, nothing in this declaration may be interpreted as implying for any state, people, group, or person, or has any right to engage in any activity or perform any act contrary to the Charter of the United Nations.
I think that's pretty serious. I think that maybe some people could say you're an alarmist. You're just making trouble. I'm sure you've heard that, Ron. But
well, that was actually in that 3 hour, like the video clips I was showing you.
okay,
That's what one person said, that's people are doing that, and I
that
and
they're
I put in the
raising
video.
issues that are not, that you don't need to be raising this. This is not the case. This is not what's happening.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you're
you
saying,
just you
but
just
however,
fear
this
them.
is what this says. You can't,
Yeah.
you can't engage the military on
Unless-
Canadian soil
unless they-
unless agreed to by the Indigenous, whoever they are, which we don't
Yeah.
have defined. I get it. I think
Yeah.
this has to be either A, completely defined in a manner which is understandable, or
Yes.
or it has to be
Scrapped.
explored, scrapped, take it all out and begin again, because this is not as is. If this is what you're saying and this is what you're pointing out, and if I'm to
Yeah.
believe you, then this is a problem. I see what you're saying.
Oh, it's a big problem. Yeah, huge. Now, another one is Article 36, and that's the one that I believe points to the fact that you can have foreign aboriginals totally taking in UNDRIP rights in Canada. And I'll read it here. It says indigenous peoples, in particular those divided by international borders, have the right to maintain and develop contacts, relations, cooperation, including activities for spiritual, cultural, political, economic, and social purposes with their own members as well as other peoples across borders. Okay? Anyhow, I mean, we could go on and on with all this stuff. I mean,
Well, thanks for keeping a watch on it. What will you do then as of April 22nd when this is going through? Are you going to, do you have a suggestion for everyone? Should we be contacting our MPs?
Yeah.
Should everybody listening to this video just share this with your MP?
Right.
And all of the MPs are listed on my website, laurelyn.tv. And
There you
so if
go.
you don't know who your MP is, just go to my website and maybe share this video with Ron's information of what's going
so
on.
does it have the actual districts that they're in, the electoral, the electoral ridings? Or
Right.
does it
I
just say
don't
the
know that I
MPs?
have the
Oh.
writings. Let me check.
Yeah, well, that's a good start. Anyhow,
Yep.
Okay, so we have 2 weeks, really, maybe 3, to educate the MPs. Okay.
Because April
Our first
22nd
line-
is bearing down on us.
And
at this
that's
point.
that's the vote date. That's
Yeah.
when everything's wrapped up. Okay, now that is what I've heard. It could be a little bit wrong. I don't know. Like, I haven't fully confirmed it. It's all kind of through the grapevine. Okay, but definitely it's from good sources.
Okay.
But anyhow,
I mean, somebody trying to be politically correct, Ron, would just say, okay, yes, it's something to do with the Indigenous. Let's
let
just
them have
support
the
it.
land. Yeah.
Yeah, and then 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, a case has
Oh.
been built wherein
Oh, for sure.
we don't own the land that we have purchased and thought we
It'll
worked
be a lot
hard.
faster than 10 years. I'll tell you that. It'll be
believe that?
fairly quick. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No, it's gonna, because it's all part of UN Agenda 2030. Right?
Okay.
UN Agenda 2030 is the umbrella, right? And then Paris Accord is one stick of it. UNDRIP's another. Biodiversity treaties,
The
Global
immigration.
Compact on Migration. All
Yeah.
these things are under it, right? Okay,
Okay.
so radical. Like, that's why I was really not happy for 3 months after the last federal election, because I knew that radical change beyond belief is coming to Canada. And have we not seen that in the last year?
Yes.
And it's just going to get far more radical, like you wouldn't believe. And expect really big things to happen, unless we can fight it back, right? So that's where we come in. And so people need to educate themselves a little bit. Like, read my letter. Can you post it on your website? Or
Sure.
Okay, and then also Mark
Well-
Friesen again, ffc.org. That's probably the easiest, ffc.org, and just look up UNDRIP, and
Okay,
it's right there.
ffc.org. That has your
Uh,
letter
yeah, is
there.
you're just going to make sure that it's a .org.
Okay.
Oh, .info. Sorry, ffc.info.
ffc.info, and that is
Yeah.
a Grizzly
And then
Patriot site.
yeah, and then there's a tab on there. Basically says UNDRIP. Just click on it.
Okay.
All right. So
Thank you, Ron.
and then okay, go and copy and paste that, and maybe add to it, delete it, sections or whatever you want, and then go ahead, find out your MP, send it to them, and even your senators, because it was the brave senators who stopped this. They saved Canada back in 2019. We need to let them know that we support them, and say, raise your concerns. So our first line of defense is to educate the MPs and hope that they will be brave enough to risk their political careers within their parties to vote against a whip vote, right? Because you're going to have, Trudeau going to say, okay, we want everyone to vote on this, and if they say, well, we don't want to, then you get, look at Derek Sloan, right? What happened to him? Okay.
Well,
so
here's the thing,
and-
what's
Yeah.
going to happen, right? When you dare
Yeah.
to stand out and try to do
Stand up.
something, that's
Now
what
is the
happens.
time to stand up. You'll be looked upon as heroes if you defeat this thing as MPs.
Right.
Absolutely. And a lot of people are knowing about this now. In 2019, when I first did my video, I never seen or heard anyone talking about it, right? But now it's really in the truth type movement. People want to be able to figure out what's going on. People are knowing about it, and hopefully we can get it into the mainstream.
Okay.
I like to see rebel news. I've been trying to reach them in every which possible way,
Yeah.
and they're not having it yet. So hopefully we
Okay.
can put the thing in their ear to go ahead and cover this, because this is very serious, right? And if
Well,
we
I
can
like
get
the way you
mainstream news,
Right.
Mhm.
I like the way you started this. You're not a racist. You believe in rights for all people.
yeah, for sure.
But there's
Oh,
a bit
yeah.
of a concern. And as we all know, agendas of each individual group can sometimes, have their play. And if we
Right.
need to be watchmen on the wall, just ensuring
Exactly.
that fairness
Yeah.
is kept in Canada and that something doesn't happen
Yeah.
where we're duped. We all got duped by a few things, and we're seeing the ramifications. We all got duped by SOGI,
Yeah.
sexual orientation
Yeah.
and gender identity. We got
Oh.
duped. That goes into school under the guise of bullying, and now
Yeah.
we have
Oh, yeah.
a rise in gender dysphoria.
See, that's another attack angle for UN Agenda 2030. It's all of these things, everything crazy that we are seeing. Many people believe is part of this agenda, right? Because it's a total shift. It's to bring us into worldwide fascist communism dictatorship type thing, where we
Right.
own nothing and we're going to be happy. Another thing with UNDRIP is when I was about to run in the election, I talked to a business owner. He's a nice guy, Aboriginal guy. And he says, Ron, I'm way more connected than you are on this whole topic. He says, in 10 years, we're taking Canada back. And that was in 2019. And I didn't really question him on it, because we were talking about other things too. But that's what he meant. He meant in 10 years, we're taking, we're going to get our, land back, and we're going to own the place, right?
Wow.
And that's what's going on. It's
Well-
happening, and it's all behind the scenes. That's the thing. It's all behind the scenes, and it's not just Canada. It's worldwide. And the people in the States, they need to wake up to this too, because it's all happening behind the scenes over there too. And now with Joe Biden, running the place, you can bet your boots it's going to be coming up real fast.
Yep, they'll be building back better. Okay. Well,
That's what it is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ron. I hear what
All
you're
right.
saying. It's very important. I think that we'll have more
Yes.
conversations on this, and especially maybe
Okay.
before or after April 22nd, get an update
Yeah.
on what is actually happening. So thank you. I
And-
appreciate your time.
And one more thing here is that feather in your hat actually is that you're the first news organization to cover it. You've covered it 3 times now, I believe, with me and whatnot. And so you're on that very bleeding cutting edge, and so people need to
Yay.
support your work.
Okay. Send me
All right.
some sort of medal or something substantial.
Yeah.
Send cash,
Yeah.
Ron. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. All right.
Bless your heart. I appreciate the
Okay.
work you're doing. I know what it's like to be a forerunner. I know what it's like to have to put stuff out there. It's not comfortable, and you risk
No.
actually backlash. So I appreciate your courage in that regard.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Fair
We're in the
enough.
crosshairs.
That's right.
All right.
Thank you, Ron.
Best to you.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, that's awesome. Thank you everyone for supporting this work. Do you have time for just a brief word from this book that I love so much? LauraLynn.tv for any of you that support everything. I'm really emotionally, done in today. I feel overwhelmed. There's been a lot that's happened. Pray for CD in jail tonight for not being silent on mentioning particulars, especially of pastors and those that, doctors. There's the other issue of the pastors, mentioning doctors and that have been complicit, So pray for him. Thank you for supporting this work, those of you that do. All right. I'd like to read to you Hebrews, James. I'd like to read to you from Hebrews 10 today. Hebrews 11 is one of my favorite chapters. It's about those people of faith. Those are the ones, they were the heroes of old. They stood in the face of giants. They were tortured at times. They took hits because why? Because they believed in something. They believed in the power of the gospel of Jesus Christ, basically going forward. They believed in their God, and they stood in difficult times at the risk of all kinds of things, being ostracized, being put down, perhaps facing convictions, being fed to the lions, all kinds of stuff. Hebrews 10:3, it says, "Therefore when Christ came into the world, he said, 'Sacrifice and offering you did not desire, but a body you prepared for me. With burnt offerings and sin offerings you were not pleased. Then I said, Here I am. It is written about me in the scroll. I have come to do your will, my God.'" When Jesus came, he came as the ultimate sacrifice, and that is what gives us all hope. He came not to please men, but to please his Father in heaven. The ultimate sacrifice that went ahead of us, that went against all political correctness, that defied the Romans of the day and also defied the Jewish religion of the day, was the message of Jesus Christ. So today, we all stand in proxy with that. We stand as representatives of God. And for some of you out there, you don't know where to find that courage, you don't know where to find that strength, but there is only one place to find that strength, and that is in a relationship with God. I speak about this hopefully as often as I can every single day. For those of you who are standing, you see a lot going wrong. You see our nation upside down. You see COVID-19 rules that don't make sense. We're shutting churches down. In British Columbia, you're not allowed to go to church. Well, some churches are going open. There's another group of about 22 churches or so, maybe more, that are opening up this following Sunday, from what I understand. They're going in defiance of the orders of Bonnie Henry and the church and the government, because we have to obey God rather than man. And when it doesn't make sense, you have to believe that there's something else behind it. So I thank you for standing with me. I thank you for standing up as courageous Canadians. We have to recognize that we are on the brink of tyranny. All kinds of things happening. UNDRIP, the church is shut down, COVID-19 regulation. How long will it take to end? I don't know. But I love being here with you. Thank you for being here with me. We'll see you tomorrow. You know, it's not easy to deliver the truth of what our sick world is doing, but for some of us, we feel that we have no choice. Because if we are silent about these abominable things, then we are letting evil go unchecked, and we cannot do that. For those of you wonderful people who are writing me and are sharing your encouragement, I am deeply grateful. Thank you for all the letters that you've been sending. Thank you for the donations and the support. I found out that in order to speak the truth, you have to become very, very strong. If you would go to my website at www.lauralynn.tv, you'll find all of the ways that you can contact me. Remember, my friends, all is well. All is well. Thanks for joining me.